got a reading from Acts, Psalms, Revelation, and John. Sound familiar? That's because that's what we're doing right now. All right, let's start out with Acts chapter 16, verses 9 to 15. In this passage, Acts 16, 9 to 15, it starts out, during the night, Paul had a vision, and there stood a man of Macedonia pleading with him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Okay, we're not going to go over what happened before this, but on this particular mission trip of Paul's, he had intentions to go elsewhere. And one place it says the Spirit of Jesus forbid him, and another one, there was like some sort of something to stop. Paul was making plans to evangelize more of that peninsula that we now know as Turkey, and at each turn he got a roadblock. So his plans resulted in failure. So when he gets this vision here of the man from Macedonia, notice there's no name on the man, just that it's just a man of Macedonia pleading, saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." This is an instance where Paul's plans get superseded by the Lord's plans. That's all this. That's what that's the main point of this passage, and the reason why it comes to him from this vision, because he had very clear plans, and he was very disappointed that he wasn't able to carry out his plans. Verse 10, when he had seen the vision, we immediately tried to cross over to Macedonia, being convinced that God had called us to proclaim the good news to them. Okay, something very interesting here. Notice this is where we see the we. We call these the we section of Acts. This is our thought that this is a section of the gospel, but of the book of Acts, where the writer actually is accompanying Paul. And that's one of the reasons why we think that it is Luke, because of the fact that Paul talks about his physician, Luke, accompanying him. And in this portion of Acts, the writer that we call Luke all of a sudden starts using these we passages. So it's very likely that the last stop that they were at, where it says they went down to Troas, I think that it means that Luke possibly could be from Troas, and that's where Paul picked him up, if you will, all right? So, if you will, when he says, when he had seen the vision, we immediately tried to cross over to Macedonia. Yeah, so this is an acknowledgement that the vision that superseded the plans was being acted upon. Being convinced that God had called us to proclaim the good news to them. This is their first foray into the European continent. We set sail from Troas. Notice the we again. We set sail from Troas and took a straight course to Samothrace. The following day to Neapolis, and from there to Philippi, which is a leading city of the district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. You can look at these, and if you have your Bible, you can. There a lot of times there are maps in the back that trace these missionary voyages. This is it's considered the great missionary voyage, even though there's a lot of failure in it. I believe that Luke is narrating from personal experience. That's the reason why he could say that, they did a straight course to Samothrace, and, he knew all the ports of call because he was there with him, okay? All right. We remained in this city for some days. Philippi, it says, is the leading city of the district of Macedonia. The way that the Romans had done things is they had divided up the land into different districts and colonies and such like that. Philippi, there's a alternate reading there where it says a city of the first district as opposed to a leading city of the district. We don't know if maybe the Romans had designated it as district number 1 by the phrase a city of the first district, or first meaning a leading city. That's the way our translators have translated it, which is a leading city of the district of Macedonia and a Roman colony. We remained in this city for some days, which is to say that they did their ministry there for a while. We don't know what Luke did in Paul's ministry other than, accompany him, and Paul mentions, like I said, him as his physician. But it says, we remained in the city for some days. On the Sabbath day, we went outside the great temple. We went outside the gate by the river, where we supposed there was a place of prayer. And we sat down and spoke to the women who had gathered there. Okay, so the place of prayer doesn't necessarily mean it was a building. Could have just been an open air spot. But when it says a place of prayer, it means, as was Paul's habit, he would go first to the Jewish community of the area and spoke to the women who had gathered there. Apparently, there weren't a lot of men that were doing praying. I don't know what that means. Although I don't think that men engage with women in social discourse like this is necessarily the norm. So it seems to be something of outside of the usual. Okay, verse 14. A certain woman named Lydia, a worshiper of God. Now, we know of men who had the title of, God-fearers. The God-fearers, they were usually men who were drawn to the Jewish religion, but didn't commit to the point of becoming a proselyte because it required the circumcision, and a lot of grown men aren't into that, shall we say. But this woman named Lydia, a worshiper of God, we think that this is like a female equivalent of calling somebody drawn to the Jewish religion, but not necessarily a convert or a proselyte. A worshiper of God was listening to us. She was from the city of Thyatira and a dealer in purple cloth. In Thyatira, they made an industry of dyeing things. And if you could dye things purple, purple's a royal color, you can get quite a market for that amongst the, how some people in real estate like to sell the high dollar homes because, well, there's more in it for you because of the percentage you get back. Well, purple cloth means that you have a market with the royalty, and if you have a market with the royalty, then guess what? You're going to make bigger profits. So it appears that is what's going on here. A dealer in purple cloth. So she was a businesswoman, right? And doesn't say anything about a man in her life either, which is interesting. So there was a certain woman. She was listening. And we're told who she was. The Lord opened her heart to listen eagerly to what was said by Paul. This is a common way of Luke expressing somebody's openness. The Lord opened her heart. When she and her household were baptized. Okay, so this is a way, Luke does this a lot, and the way he doesn't state it as a statement. Her whole household was baptized. No, it says when she and her household were baptized. kind of like, remember in the Nativity scene where it talks about Mary giving birth? It said, when she came, and when it came time for her to give birth, she laid the baby wrapped it in swaddling clothes and laid it in a manger. It's a distinctive way for Luke, the name we call our author, to express things. When she and her household were baptized, she urged us, saying, "If you have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my home." We have evidence of this kind of hospitality of women in the Old Testament with regard to the prophets. There was this one woman who was a widow, and she had a son, and she actually went to the trouble of building a room for Elijah, I think it was, or Elisha. I can't remember specifically which prophet it was, but there's precedent for our author of Luke Acts to consistently revive those stories that we see in the Old Testament, and I believe this is a part of Luke's deliberate attempt to have it give it more a feel of Scripture. Okay, all right. If you judge me to be faithful to the Lord, come and stay at my home. And she prevailed upon us. Okay, so yeah, which is to say that they accepted her invitation to use her room that she had prepared for them to stay in, which is great, right? I mean, free lodging when you're traveling. Who wouldn't want that, right? Okay, good. All right, we're moving on. Psalm 67. Psalm 67, only 7 verses here. May God be merciful to us and bless us, show us the light of his countenance and come to us. Notice that one of the things we got to get in our, when we read Psalms is what's the voice that it's using with regard to God? Is it talking to God? Is it talking as God? Is it talking about God? Is it requesting something from God? Notice this is may God be merciful to us and bless us. So it's almost like a priest addressing a crowd, if you will, right? May God be merciful to us and bless us, show us the light of his countenance and come to us, right? It sounds a lot like what we call the Aaronic blessing, Aaronic, the Aaronic blessing, the blessing of Aaron. May the God of the Lord, I quote part of this in my blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord show his countenance upon you and give you peace. There you go. That's the Aaronic blessing. So this reminds us of that, right? But then in verse 2, it shifts to something where it's not talking about God, it's talking to God, right? Look. Let your ways be known upon earth, your saving health among all nations. It turns into a prayer, right? Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy. For you judge the peoples with equity and guide all the nations upon earth. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Okay, so with that, notice it's talking to, let your ways be known. It's talking to God. Let praises pray you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad, sing for joy. You judge the world with equity. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. So 3, 4, and 5, if you look, 3 and 5, verses 3 and 5 are basically exactly the same, right? Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. So that's a part of the sandwiching, if you will, of the psalmist. And yeah, this is an appropriate psalm for Eastertide because it looks toward the opening up of the gospel. And anytime you see nations mentioned, especially all nations, judging the peoples with equity, notice it's all about inclusiveness, right? This is one of the themes we get post Easter Sunday and throughout Eastertide, is the inclusiveness of the kingdom of God to everyone, right? And then we have in verses 6 and 7 a shift back to the voice that we heard in verse 1. That's verse 1 where it said, "May God be merciful to us and bless us, show us the blessing of his countenance, and come to us," like something a priest would say, right? And then verses 2 through 5 sound a little bit like what the people would say. So we think that maybe the liturgical use of this psalm could be, something that would happen in the temple or the synagogue, right? Notice verses 6 and 7. "The earth has brought forth her increase. May God, our own God, give us his blessing." Notice the third person voice, and this picks up the theme of the first half of verse 1. May God be merciful to us and bless us. Now it's saying, the earth is brought forth, may God, our own God, give us his blessing. Okay, sandwiching again, the way they intercalate those two things. And then verse 7, may God give us his blessing, and may all the ends of the earth stand in awe of him. It finishes in third person. I think that this is where we get a clue for the precedent that we use in our own worship with regard to the Psalms, how we bounce back and forth as a responsive reading. Sometimes we do it by half verse, sometimes by whole verse, sometimes we don't do it at all, depending upon which psalm it is. But sometimes it's just, you can tell the way it was used by the person in which God is addressed. Is God is addressed in the second person or in the third person? He/she, they, that, her, him, versus you and yours, okay? Those kinds of things. Anyway, so I already pointed out how that points out to our Easter theme. Very good. Let us move along. Revelation chapter 21, verse 10, and then picking up again in verse 22, going through the end of chapter 21 into verses 1 through 5 of chapter 22. Okay, so Revelation 21:10. Revelation 21:10 is a statement. "And in the Spirit he carried me away to a great high mountain and showed me the holy city Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God." We don't read the stuff in verses 11 through 21 because it's a very detailed description. The bottom line is this: it's a cube, okay? It's like a perfect cube as far as like a square box, right? And it mentions 12 gates with the names inscribed of all the people, the names of Israel and the names of the disciples. And on them are the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb, right? And it talks about a wall, okay, around that. I'm summarizing what's in verses 11 to 21. There's a wall around it, and it describes it. The wall is pure gold, clear as glass. Foundations, the foundations of the walls are, each one is a jewel in and of itself. And this is where we get the passage of the pearly gate, okay? Verse 21. "And the 12 gates are 12 pearls." Yes, that's where we get the word pearly gate. It's not that they were made of pearls. Each one was a pearl. Yes, this is what happens when you are using, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for where you over-exaggerate? There's a fancy word for it, I can't think. But over-exaggeration, each one was so magnificent. Each one was a pearl in and of itself, right? And the 12 gates are 12 pearls. Each of the gates is a single pearl, and the street of the city is pure gold, transparent as glass. Oh. Yeah, the Romans, remember, one of the things we want to keep in mind when we're reading the book of Revelation is it's attempting to describe what's coming next in the wake of Rome being such a bad thing for Christianity. Remember, this is written in a time of persecution. This is written in a time where they're trying to give hope and, to people who were in crisis, okay? So the reference to the streets of gold, transparent, it's like, oh, it's so pure you can see through it. The Romans had a very high reputation for building great roads, and it's like, oh, you think those are great roads? Check these roads out. Yeah, that's right. When we are referring to, or when our writer is referring to this new creation that God is bringing about, it always is better than what the Romans have put out there. Yes, exactly. So, and then we pick up again here in verse 22 of chapter 21. I saw no temple in the city, for its temple is the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb. A new Jerusalem and no temple? This is a huge thing to say. I mean, one of the things that makes Jerusalem so holy for the people, the religion of Jesus, the Jewish people, was that the temple was there. And there's this new Jerusalem, and there's no temple? What? Yeah, this is a major tack in our writer describing the future of what God is doing as the temple. Is like the temple is only a temporal thing. The temple is not eternal. Okay, Jerusalem apparently is heaven and earth are, because there's a new heaven and a new earth, but there's no temple in it. No more is there a need for something that represents God's presence, because God is present there already. Yeah, this is a great Easter message, right? This is the reality. Many believe. I think it's something that describes a reality that exists now. We don't experience it necessarily the way we should now, but is it available? Is it available now? Yes, I believe it is. Is it a foregleam of what we will, what eternity looks like? Yes, I do. And when we see that there was no temple in the city, for the temple is the Lord God, you can kind of see where he's going there, right? Look, and the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it. Notice sun and moon are both created entities. Remember, in the creation story, light was created before the sun and the moon. Yeah, right? Did you realize that? Yes, look at it. Genesis 1. Light, God says, let there be light before God creates the sun and the moon and the stars, okay? Those are the things that were traditionally thought of as, oh, that's where the light's coming from. No, it ain't. It's coming from God. And God created all those things. And the other religions of the day worshipped those creations of God. And that was the distinctive of Israel, is that they believed that they were worshiping the creator of those things that other people thought that they were supposed to worship. Yeah. All right. And the city has no need of sun or moon to shine on it, for the glory of God is its light, and its lamp is the Lamb. I think it's funny that those words, which do not sound similar in Greek at all, are very similar. This is when words sound alike, but they're but they're not actually the same word, but they're they're made to be the same thing. Anyway, the lamp is the lamb. This is fortuitous for us English speakers, right? The nations, verse 24. And remember, whenever we see the nations mentioned, it means non-Jewish, it means Gentile, it means people who were thought to be on the outside looking in. Look what it says. The nations will what? They will walk by its light. And the kings of the earth, what? Will bring their glory into it. Yeah. What a view this is. Remember, after Easter, we celebrate how the resurrection means that the future is opened up for the world, right? Its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there. City gates were closed for two purposes. One, because intruders or people attacking, people bringing violence were to be feared, so you closed them then. You also closed them, at night. Notice, its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there. If there's no night, then that means that there's no reason to ever shut the gates. The gates are always open. Yes, this is because we can rest assured that we are in a safe space. There is no reason for us to fear. There is no reason for us to take actions that are based in fear. Is that not a great Easter message, right? And there will be no night there. Verse 26, people will bring into it the glory and the honor of who? The nations. You see that? People will bring into it the glory and the honor of the nations. The nations? They were not thought to have any glory and honor, but yet we're told that there is, and that they will bring, that people will bring what they have into it. This is another way of saying that Easter and the resurrection, what it does is it opens up access to the world. Yes? But, verse 27, but nothing unclean will enter it, nor anyone who practices abominations or falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Again, this is a reference to the fact that we don't need to be afraid of, what if somebody gets in who's not supposed to be getting? We don't even have to worry about that. This is not something that we have to worry our little heads about. All we need to do is be thankful that our name is written in the Lamb's book of life. We don't have to live in fear that it's going to include people we don't like, okay? And I'm not saying that there will be people excluded. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it creates an idyllic situation whereby, hyperbole, that's the word I was looking for earlier, hyperbole, exaggeration. This creates a situation whereby those things that we pointed out to and would say, I'm not them, that won't even be there, okay? Our distinguishing amongst ourselves, all of that will be disappeared. Yes. This is the idyllic picture of what's available through Easter, through the resurrection, and going forward into eternity. Chapter 22, we have the first 5 verses of that, and then we're done with the second lesson. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. So the throne of God and of the Lamb, we've seen the throne imagery before. God and of the Lamb, it's the same person, one throne, okay? But notice this thing about the river of the water of life. If you were to go back to the book of Genesis and creation, you'll see the thing about, we're talking about the tree of life, how important water is in sustaining that, how the chaotic waters have been tamed so that the waters can be something that we partake of in order to be sustained. That's one of the reasons why in Psalm 23 it talks about he leads me beside the still waters. Yeah, waters that are not violent, waters that are still enough to refresh us but not to kill us. All right. Okay. Here we should have the river of the water of life. It's an example of the fact that we get everything we need as a result of the resurrection through Easter for eternity, okay? Water that is the water of life, the river of the water of life, something that they didn't call their rivers rivers, they called them wadis. Why did they call them wadis? Because they weren't always rivers. They didn't always have water in them. There was a dry season, right? And the picture that's being painted here is that there is no such thing as a dry season in eternity or in the wake of the resurrection, right? Okay, through the middle of the street of the city, through the middle of the street, that finishes that sentence. The beginning of verse 2 ends the sentence that was started in verse 1. So this river goes through the middle of the street of the city, okay? If you were to look at Ezekiel, and he has a painstakingly detailed description of the ideal temple, okay? One that never got built, never will be built, but it started the thinking process in the realm of apocalyptic thinking toward, what does an ideal, Jerusalem look like? What's an ideal temple look like? Well, this is a picture that our writer of the book of Revelation had read Ezekiel, okay? You got to say that, got to know that. So if you haven't read Ezekiel lately and seen this vision or read about this vision, it's a perfect vision of a temple. And the imagery that our writer of the book of Revelation is using is hearkening back to that kind of idyllic picturing of that apocalyptic writer. Okay, with its 12 kinds, on either side of the river is the tree of life, with its 12 kinds of fruit, producing its fruit each month, and the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. Okay, so notice it only describes a tree, but obviously it refers to like an orchard, right? 12 kinds of fruit. We're not surprised there's 12 kinds of fruit now, are we? There could have been 7 kinds of fruit and it would have meant the same thing, okay? 12 kinds of fruit. Remember the symbolism of the 12, of course. And notice each month, yeah, the way our experience of trees, and especially ones that we harvest fruit from, is like, we don't get it every month. There's that season where there is fruit to be harvested, and then there's the time that there's not. There is no not in this vision, okay? And the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations. This is something that we're very familiar with because we're familiar with the fact that we get balms and things, salves, if you will, from leaves. And notice the healing of the nations, that all of this that's provided is inclusive of those that had been pushed out, okay, for their benefit. Again, that's a great message for Easter, is it not? Verse 3, nothing accursed will be found there anymore. So our way of saying, oh, that's bad, all of that disappears, okay? But the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it. We've already told that. It's one throne. And his servants will worship him. In the Greek, the word is slaves, doulos as the singular, douloi, the plural, but it means slaves or servants. You've heard of a douula. A douula is somebody who helps out somebody a woman in childbirth, right? What's the main person? I can't think of it. Well, anyway, a doula, my sister's a doula. They help what are they called? I can't, that name is the woman who comes to the house and helps out with the childbirth. Anyway, the person who assists her is a doula. That's my understanding anyway. Anyway, the word means, it's from the Greek, meaning slave or servant, okay? And these servants will worship him. This is the picture that we get of, it's an idyllic picture. It might sound boring, like, oh, you mean really? All we're going to be doing is praising God. Well, guess what? What that means is you aren't going to have a care to be caring. We can't picture this as necessarily as for us, because we've got so many cares of the world that take us away from that. Remember that phrase, God inhabits praise? Well, there you go. God inhabits praise. That's where God lives. We can experience the presence of God by giving God praise. And so are we surprised then that this is the picture of, this idyllic picture of what is available to us after the resurrection? Exactly. We should not be surprised. They will see his face. Yeah. It was believed that if you did see God's face, you would die. And now there's that's gone. No fear. God, direct access. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. That's something that got referred to earlier in the book. When we talk about names on the foreheads, it indicates ownership, or the fact that that one entity is included in another, as a possession, in a good way, okay? And there will be no more night. We were told this already. That's the reason why the city gates could be open all the time. And the reason why there's no night, remember, night was the beginning of their days. Remember, night comes first. If you look at the creation story, it talks about, and there was evening and there was morning. Oh, there was evening and morning. We think of it as morning and evening as a day, but in the creation economy, and there was evening and morning, not morning and evening. Their day started at sundown. Yeah, okay. And there will be no more night. They need no light or lamp or sun. Yeah, even though it was said before, the lamp is the lamb. The lamb and the lamp are the same thing. For the Lord God will be their light, okay? They will reign forever and ever. So even the creation of light, the created light, even that is necessary. Not only were the created things that give light, like the sun, the moon, the stars, some of that's reflected, some of it's direct, but that's our economy. None of that is even necessary, because this is a new creation. God and the light of the Lamb itself. It's like nothing of the old creation has to carry over. It's all new. Awesome, right? I cannot believe it's 39 minutes in and I haven't even got to the gospel yet. Let's get to the gospel. I hope you see the obvious connection to Eastertide there. The gospel, we're looking at John, back in John chapter 5, just verses 1 through 9. John 5, verses 1 through 9. Now, anytime we're in the early part of John, we've got to realize that when we read the book of John, we get the early part of John, where it says, which is sometimes called the book of signs, and the latter part of John, which is called the book of glory, okay? This is jumping back to that time of the book of signs, okay? And let's just get into it here, shall we? After this, okay, what's after this? Well, Jesus had just healed a person who was the son of a synagogue person, I think, something like that. Yes, a royal official whose son lay ill in Capernaum. Capernaum is on the Sea of Galilee, way up north. Where had Jesus been just before that? He'd been in Samaria. okay, and that's where he had that, in the town that we call Nablus now, that's where Jacob's well was. Jesus had that conversation with the woman at the well. Okay, and then he goes back through Cana and back up to Capernaum. And then after this, okay, after that healing in Capernaum, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. We have many entrances of Jesus, mentionings of Jesus going to Jerusalem in John. Jerusalem knew who Jesus was in John's gospel because of the fact that Jesus was there at least 3 times before what we call Palm Sunday. So just remember that whenever we see this festival of the Jews and Jesus went up to Jerusalem, Jesus always went to Jerusalem for these festivals because he was a good practiced Jewish person. In the Synoptic Gospels, we don't have this same kind of movement of Jesus back and forth, and from the south to the north and north to the south, from Galilee to Jerusalem, but we do in John. All right. After this, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Verse 2. Now in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, which has 5 porticos. We visited this when we went to Israel, both 5 years ago and just this past February. They actually excavated this site, and it's just north of the Temple Mount, and it's quite fascinating to see. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. Okay, so it was a spot where people believed they could be healed, right? Verse 5, one man was there who had been ill for 38 years. Probably that means all his life, okay? And that probably also is an indication of how badly ill he was, right? When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" Again, this is the way of setting up an interaction for something else, right? Jesus knew that, but this is what you do literarily when you're telling a story, right? The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool. When the water is stirred up, and while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." There was a belief that this pool, that there were healing properties of this pool, that what would happen is, and this comes in some of the ancient manuscripts that doesn't get inserted here, but you might in the old King James Version, I'm not 100% sure, where it would say that it was believed that an angel would come down and stir up the waters, and when the waters were stirred up, if you got in then, okay, and yes, there's a mad rush. There's a mad rush to get into the pool when the waters got stirred up. And so this man always was on the outs, never, not even well enough to get in the pool at that time, because there was only a certain time when it was something that would bring healing. This is the belief, okay? Someone else steps down ahead of me, and Jesus said to him, verse 8, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." Jesus is, that's like what he's saying, okay, we're going to just bypass all that. At once, the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Now that day was the Sabbath. So why do we have this passage on this during Eastertide? Well, in John, there is no sense of anything. The entire Gospel of John is an Easter gospel. Okay, Jesus acts from that resurrected, all-powerful state all the time, and so it's appropriate for us to look back into this part of John and say, oh yeah, this is an example of the resurrection being made available, the power of the resurrection being made available even to the people during Jesus' ministry before the resurrection, before the crucifixion. This is available to us, yes. The healing of God is available to us, yes, in the wake of Easter. This is why we can reach back into the signs section of John's Gospel and appropriate it for post-Easter, after the resurrection. All right.